So I'm going to do this in segments of 15 minutes because that's all I can upload to. Thank you, YouTube, for that. I downloaded a PDF of an NLP book because I couldn't find for dummies NLP. Not NLP. Neuromarketing. So I'm going to do in increments of 15 minutes. And I won't be in the video, don't worry. Let's start off. And sorry if the quality is kind of shitty, but you'll probably be able to hear it.
During the past decade, methods and insights from the field of neuroscience have received great interest and attention in the field of marketing and consumer research, and a hybrid has emerged from the two, neuromarketing. Put in a very simplistic way, neuromarketing can be defined as any marketing or market research activity which uses methods, techniques, or insights from the field of neuroscience. Jenko et al. 2013, p. 8. As neuroscientific research methods have gained ground in the world of marketing, loud criticisms and somewhat apocalyptic predictions have been soaring in the popular press. Senior 2008, p. 263. It is thought that a great contributor of this debate was the notion of a buy button in the brain, coined as the attempt to locate a mythical region of the human brain that when activated would drive subsequent consumer behavior, perhaps without consumers being consciously aware of this. op.cit. p. 264. Despite its controversiality, the field of neuromarketing is gaining attention amongst advertising and marketing professionals. One of the standard bearers of the many wonders of neuromarketing and also one of the most prominent contributors within the field is Martin Lindstrom. However, despite Lindstrom's high-profile position as contributor to the field of neuromarketing, he is also one of the most heavily criticized, especially by the academic field of neuroscience. In an article from Harvard Review of Psychiatry, 3 scholars from the field of neuroscience raised their concern regarding the vivid descriptions of neuroscientific methods and concepts. It is worrisome that neuromarketing companies appear to be providing links to media rather than to scientific literature, as media coverage could be used in the absence of peer-reviewed evidence to prematurely legitimize the use of these technologies. Fisher et al. 2010, p. 234. In 2011, the critique of Lindstrom took new heights as no less than 46 PhDs responded to a neuromarketing op-ed in the New York Times by Lindstrom, stating in an open letter to the editor that, "We find it surprising that the Times would publish claims that lack scientific validity." Poltrack, et.al. 2011. Lindstrom's book Biology was one of the first books about neuromarketing we read. Part of the reason why we began reading Biology was due to the massive amount of exposure the book had received. Lindstrom is one of the most, if not the most, prominent neuromarketers worldwide. Typing his name in the international version, Martin Lindstrom, in Google's search engine entails approx. 695.000 hits. Appendix 3. Even though we were reading the book through our supposedly critical, academic lenses, we were quite impressed by Lindstrom's vivid descriptions of the power of neuromarketing and its extensive use and possibilities. After reading Biology, we began researching other notions of neuromarketing and its current uses in relation to marketing efforts. Through this we discovered that several marketers and neuroscientists take a quite critical stance towards Lindstrom and his work, and that much of this criticism points to Lindstrom's research methods and empirical data. Poltrack, et.al. 2011. We scrutinized Biology for more information about the studies conducted. However, we were unable to uncover any scientific groundings or results. In spite of this, Lindstrom still manages to receive a significant amount of exposure and media attention, as well as collaborations with prominent marketers, scientists, and well-known companies. 1.1 Purpose Statement based on the above observations. The purpose of this report is as follows. With a point of departure in a theoretical discussion of the concept of neuromarketing, we wish to discuss and analyze Lindstrom's and the field of neuroscience's communicative approach to the practice. Through this, we wish to examine their attitudes toward the use of neuroscience in marketing and if and how their attitudes differ. To examine this, This thesis will, through use of critical discourse analysis, henceforth CDA and Tolman's notion of argumentation, investigate 2 chapters of Lindstrom's book Biology and 2 scientific articles, to establish their differences and similarities in their communicative approach to neuromarketing and their respective opinions hereof. Therefore, 4 research questions have been formed that will be answered through our analysis and thus constitute the framework of our thesis. 1. What is Lindstrom's notion of neuromarketing? 2. What is the academic field of neuroscience's notion of neuromarketing? 3. How and why do these notions differ? 4. How has Lindstrom achieved to gain status as a famous neuromarketer? The purpose of this thesis is therefore to discuss neuromarketing from a theoretical perspective and arrive at a better understanding of the practice. Furthermore, we specifically aim to understand how it is communicatively approached in the setting of biology and neuroscientific academia and why it is approached the way it is. This will enable us to examine the relative similarities and differences between the 2 fields and hereby establish noteworthy agreements and disagreements on the practice of neuromarketing. 1.2 Research design. This thesis opens with a clarification of our incentives on choosing Lindstrom and the academic field of neuroscience as main contributors to our empirical foundation. After having established this, a clarification on the marketing and neuroscientific part of neuromarketing will be carried out here under the manner in which neuroscientific experiments related to the field of neuromarketing are conducted, which types of insights they yield, and how these methods are applied to marketing. Hereby, the context 11 in which neuromarketing exists is established, ensuring a thorough background for the context of our thesis. The methodological discussion opens with an examination of Fairclough's notion of CDA and of Tolman's model of argumentation, which lays the foundation and context for our analysis, and thus for discussing the concept of neuromarketing. This thesis draws on CDA to create a holistic understanding of the communication in Lindstrom's biology alongside selected neuroscientific articles. More specifically, we will analyze Lindstrom's notion of neuromarketing together with the notion of neuroscientific scholars. In particular, we will explore which textual structures and discourses Lindstrom and the scholars draw on. That is, how they communicatively and discursively construct neuromarketing, and how this fits into a broader social perspective. We seek to understand how neuromarketing is communicatively approached, as we hereby are able to gain a better understanding of the concept. This understanding will enable us to investigate the relative differences or similarities belonging to our empirical data and to their attitudes towards neuromarketing. Tolman's model of argumentation will be applied, as this supplements Fairclough's CDA very well. Fairclough focuses on how language and discourses are constructed to fit the purpose of the communicator, whereas Tolman focuses on the logical construction of argumentations to support a specific claim. Furthermore, by incorporating Tolman's notion of argumentation, we are able to investigate the content behind the claims put forward in relation to the application of neuroscience to marketing. Thus, by incorporating both theories, attention is on argumentation on word level, content, and how it is communicated. Lindstrom's biology will be the point of departure for our analysis, and in particular chapters 1 and 6, which have been chosen for analysis. Applying Fairclough's CDA and Tolman's model of argumentation will allow us to analyze Lindstrom's presentation of neuromarketing from an objective point of view, hereby allowing for a thorough investigation of Lindstrom's overall notion of neuromarketing and his communicative approach and attitude towards it. After this, an investigation of the empirical data from the scholars will be carried out in order to establish their notion of neuromarketing and their communicative approach and attitude. 12 individual analyses of the biology chapters and the articles will be carried out. However, these will be placed in the appendix, as they are to be regarded as the groundwork of being able to establish the general notions of neuromarketing. When the individual part analyses are collected as a whole, they constitute the sum of Lindstrom's and the scholars' approach to neuromarketing, and thus, the real value of the analyses are not seen until they are collected as a unit. Therefore, the joining of the analyses make it possible to establish and arrive at a collective analysis, which represents the overall attitude of and approach to neuromarketing, from the perspectives of Lindstrom and the scholars. Thus, the parts constitute the sum on which we are able to conduct a thorough analysis. The joining of the individual analyses furthermore serves the purpose of being able to establish the social dimension in which the empirical data exists, as the social dimension cannot be fully explored through analysis of only one chapter or article. Thus, this thesis will present the collective analyses of the comparison of the biology chapters and the comparison of the scientific articles. Subsequently, a comparison biology and the articles will be conducted. The purpose of this is to examine the communicative and structural differences and similarities, which will lead to a comparison of their respective notions of neuromarketing. Lastly, we will take a close look at Lindstrom's communicative presentation of neuromarketing and examine the reasons for his prominence in mainstream media, and how and why Lindstrom and his notion of neuromarketing have managed to achieve a vast amount of media coverage. Thus, what we as researchers are able to bring to the table of neuromarketing is a thorough investigation of the different perceptions and attitudes surrounding its use. We will shed light on the practice from a communicative perspective and hereby arrive at an establishment of how it is approached from different fields. This thesis therefore aims to contribute to a better understanding of the concept of neuromarketing and the way it is communicatively approached. 13.1.2.1 Structure of this thesis consists of 10 chapters: Introduction, Theory of Scientific Methods, Empirical Foundation, Field of Neuromarketing, Methodology, Empirical Analysis, Discussion, Conclusion, Reflections, and List of Responsibilities. The section below, Delimitations, completes Chapter 1, hereby the introductory sections. Chapter 2 describes which position of scientific methods we have been inspired by and the scientific framework on which our thesis unfolds, hereby serving as a prerequisite for understanding the foundation of our thesis. Chapter 3 introduces the empirical data, which will be investigated within our thesis, the basis on which it has been chosen, along with an introduction of Lindstrom and the scholars authoring the articles. Within Chapter 4, we will introduce the field of neuromarketing and the context in which the practice exists. This is done through a theoretical discussion of the relevant aspects of marketing and an introduction to the neuroscientific methods that are applied. After having established the backbone of the practice, we will move on to an assessment of the current uses of the practice, and the chapter hereby lays the foundation of our empirical analysis and creates a context for Fairclough's social dimension. Chapter 5 accounts for the methodological tools, concepts, and framework that will be applied to our empirical data. Fairclough's three-dimensional model of CDA and Holman's model of argumentation is presented, hereby establishing the foundation on which we will build our analysis. Hereafter, we move on to Chapter 6, which consists of the analyses of our empirical data. Firstly, we will investigate Lindstrom's notion of neuromarketing, followed by an investigation of the scholar's approach to neuromarketing. These will lay the context for a further investigation of relative differences and similarities between the two, along with an examination of the social context in which they exist and their respective incentives for their communicative approach to neuromarketing. The chapter is concluded with an examination of Lindstrom as a prominent neuromarketer within mainstream media and of and how his communicative approach to neuromarketing has played a part in his prominence. Chapter 6 lays the foundation for a discussion in Chapter 7, in which the findings of the analyses will be put into context and the communicative, attitudinal, and incentive differences and similarities will be discussed. Chapter 8 concludes the findings of our empirical analysis and is the overall conclusion to our purpose statement. Lastly, Chapter 9 concludes the thesis with a reflection on our findings. Chapter 10 contains a list of responsibilities. Taken as a whole, this thesis constitutes a close partnership and collaboration between the authors. We have contributed on equal terms to the research, production, structuring, and proofreading surrounding each section, and thus, no section is assigned exclusive ownership of one author. However, in complying with thesis regulations and formalities, we have constructed a list of responsibilities, allocating the responsibility of each section to one of the authors. Figure 1. Thesis structure, own creation. 15.1.2.2 Reader's Manual. Throughout the thesis, the following abbreviations will be used. In relation to the methodology, Fairclough's critical discourse analysis will be termed CDA. The empirical data will be abbreviated as follows. A1, article, Neuromarketing, the hope and hype of neuroimaging in business. A2, article, Branding the Brain, a critical review and outlook. B1, Chapter 1 in Biology, a rush of blood to the head. B6, Chapter 6 in Biology, I say a little prayer for you. The authors of the academic articles are referred to as scholars when mentioned as an entity. Martin Lindstrom, the author of Biology, is referred to as Lindstrom. Throughout the thesis, the complete Biology study is referred to as the Biology study, whereas the individual experiments, which were conducted as part of the study, will be referred to as experiments. 1.3 Delimitations. As the subject area of our thesis covers more aspects than the scope allows us to elaborate on, an exhaustive description of all aspects is outside the remit of this thesis. Thus, a few delimitations have been necessary. We acknowledge that consumers and their attitudes towards neuromarketing are an inevitable and important aspect of the practice. However, due to the focus and scope of our thesis, we have chosen to place our sole focus on the scientific field of neuromarketing and Lindstrom's notion of the practice, as they are some of the most prominent participants in the debate concerning neuromarketing. 16. Due to the extensive nature of Lindstrom's biology, we have chosen to focus on 2 chapters, as this allows us to thoroughly elaborate on important aspects within the respective chapters and carry out a detailed analysis. The chapters have been chosen on their ability to represent Lindstrom's general view and opinion towards neuromarketing. Hereby only choosing 2 chapters are not to be considered a compromise but rather an optimization allowing for an exhaustive analysis. In regard to Lindstrom, it is important to strongly emphasize that he is not a representative for the whole field of marketing or marketers